Should we take a look at today's back pages with Tesco Mobile for Business? Because
Let's do that.
Joining us right now, it is talkSPORT Sam Ellard.
A very good morning, both. How are you?
Very well, Sam. Very well. Yourself?
I'm really good. Really good, thank you, Ali. There is only one story dominating the back pages this morning.
The Championship playoff final.
Obviously,
Thank you.
of course. Not long to go. But no, it's the England players are going to have to wait another week before discovering whether they will go to the European Championship finals after injury concerns prompted Gareth Southgate to change his plans for the tournament. So here's where we stand, guys. Southgate will today name a large provisional squad rather than his final party. That's because there's concerns over the fitness of the likes of Harry Maguire and also the participation of 11 players in European club finals this week. We're expecting a squad of around 30 to 32 players named. England's first friendly is in 8 days' time. That's next Wednesday. Southgate must then whittle down a bloated pack and submit a final 26 squad to UEFA by June the 1st. Ali, given the injuries, the final, the short turnaround from the season finishing to the first friendly, is this the right call by Gareth Southgate?
I think it's the right call, Sam. But I think it's a bit late. You know, I mean, we've known who's going to be in the Europa League final. We've known who's going to be in the Champions League final for some time now.
Couple of weeks now.
Yeah. So I find the timing of it a little bit strange. Don't have a problem with it. I think it's probably an intelligent thing to do because he has got injuries straight off the top of my head. I'm thinking Nick Pope and Harry Maguire and people like that.
Phillips, Henderson's a few, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a good few. So I think it's the correct thing to do. I just thought maybe it could have been done earlier.
I wonder, Natalie, as well for the players now. Again, we're saying around 30 to 32 players' names. You know, for some of the players that are in that 32, they probably know they've got an outside chance of it's going to be, that's a long week, isn't it, to be named today in a provisional squad and then have to wait a week to know if you know.
To know basically you have no chance. You're never going to have a chance, really. You were just named in that provisional squad. Absolutely, there'll be heartbreak. I mean, I actually find it quite bizarre that so many of the nations have already named their squad. When you know the deadline is June the 1st, we've had squads announced last week, and I think, well, why wouldn't you wait for as long as you can anyway? Because to me it makes sense. You are factoring in injuries, obviously. You're factoring in if players are returning to fitness. So I do think it makes sense that Gareth Southgate has delayed it. Now, whether it makes sense to add X amount of players who you know ultimately probably won't ever make the squad for this Euro Championship is perhaps a little harsh on some of those individuals who are called up. But in general, I just find it a bit bizarre that so many nations have already named their squads when they don't have to until June the 1st.
What almost every single newspaper this morning is doing is taking a look at some of the key dilemmas that Gareth Southgate must resolve now over the next week. So I'm going to throw some at you guys and I want to get your thoughts. We'll start, Ali, I think, with the debate that's split the nation over the past couple of months. Ali McCoist, how many right-backs can Gareth Southgate take to the European Championship? Come on, Ali, how many are we going for?
Well, what have we got?
7, 8?
What have we got?
12?
I mean, the one that never gets a mention is the best defender of a lot of them, and that's Wan-Bissaka. He doesn't get a mention, right?
It's so true.
And I think it's amazing. I mean, do you take him for a couple of games if you get through? Quite possibly, because if England were playing France, who would you want against somebody like Mbappe? I'd probably go Wan-Bissaka before most of them. Kyle Walker's been brilliant all year. Trent Alexander's found a bit of form again after having a struggle. Trippier's good season. Oh man, I mean, can you believe the problems that man's got at right back? It's incredible, Sam. It really is. But the big dilemma for me is, you know, well, and it's the one that doesn't get mentioned. As I say, Wan-Bissaka, and I just think personally, I think in a defensive situation, he's probably the best.
Natalie, is having English clubs in European finals good news or bad news?
Well, obviously it's good news in terms of English clubs doing really well in the competition. In terms of England, there's always the worry that you could pick up an injury with some of those players involved. And there's also that issue of, well, they're not getting, even if it's just a week, they're not getting a week's rest like some others are getting. But I think ultimately it's probably a good thing because they get that momentum, and especially whoever wins it, they're going to come in with such a high. Yeah. So I think ultimately it's all right. But I think Ali, you're absolutely right about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He does not get mentioned at all as a possible right back, and we know one-on-one defending.
The best, you'd say, best English,
and if we can get through the group stages, you're absolutely right. You're obviously going to then start coming up against superior opposition. Not to dismiss those in the group, but you're obviously whittling it down to the best country still in the competition, and we know how incredible he is.
I would also say with that, I think for me, Trent Alexander-Arnold gets an incredibly unfair time of it when it comes to his defensive abilities as a right back. I think people seem to think that he's brilliant going forward, but defensively he's vulnerable, and I think that's completely unfair. I'm not saying he's as solid, as reliable as Wan-Bissaka, but I think when he first came into the Liverpool team, he was definitely suspect defensively as the right back. But last couple of seasons in particular, I think he's improved a lot, his defensive side of the game as a right back. So I think someone like Trent, for me, I think he's defensively really, really good. And of course, I think going forward, he offers so much more than someone like a Wan-Bissaka. Ali, interested for your thoughts on this one as a man that's been to major tournaments before. Fit, but not match fit. So, for example, do you include Jordan Henderson, who at the moment is not injured, but made his most recent appearance for Liverpool more than 3 months ago? Does he go?
He does for me, assuming he's 100% fit. Now, one thing he won't be, of course, as you touched on there, is match fit. But as long as he's injury-free, I think he goes, Sam. I also think... just to probably contradict myself a little bit, I think there are one or two players that you would take a chance on of being fit later on in the tournament. You know what I mean? If, for example, and a lot will clearly depend on the injury and the level of injury, Sam. Because there are, as you know, you can get injured, and for a fact you can put 3 weeks on it, you can put 3.5 weeks on it, 4 weeks on it. Whereas some of the longer term ones you wouldn't have a chance, and you couldn't take the chance. But with some injuries, it would be up for discussion between Harry Kane and whoever it may be, the player may be, whether they make the squad or not. I do get that, and I understand it. For example, if I remember if Harry Kane was injured, for example, Sam, and he wasn't going to be ready for the first couple of games, but you knew he'd be ready for the final group game. He's in your squad. Make no mistake about it. He's in your squad. So there are people like that, and Gareth looks as though he's got a dilemma with 3 or 4 players with injuries. So the news that you've told us this morning doesn't surprise me, but just the timing of it slightly surprises me. I don't have a problem with it, but just the timing of it, I thought, because obviously when United and Chelsea and City had major finals coming up, you could probably have bought yourself a little bit of time.
And just lastly, quickly, this is a brilliant double-page spread in the Times this morning, looking at the key dilemmas Southgate must now resolve. The best players or the best tourists? Do you pick the best 26 players, or can you, because it's a slightly bigger squad of 26, can you include 1 or 2 who are good team players, good on tour?
Oh, you need them. Oh, make no mistake about it, mate. You need good tourists. You really do. And you can make an argument or a case that sometimes your most important players are the backup ones that aren't playing, because they can cause all sorts of hassle.
You've got to get the right blend, haven't you?
Yes, you've got to have a good sort in your squad. You've got to have a good sort in your squad. Very important.
And that's why, very quickly, that's why I think, for example, someone like Jordan Henderson may well be needed because of that leadership, because what he's done at Liverpool, we all know that. But also, when you look at all the players who've been speculated about who are getting into that sort of midfield area, it's very inexperienced. So you do need also that experience in there. Whether he plays his part on the in a match day might be different because we don't know his fitness levels, but you just need certain individuals there who at least in the dressing room, are going to have a massive influence.
That's a position, Natalie. What have you got? You get Phillips and Rice, really. Is there MD else? Am I missing MD in that kind of position?
And Ward-Prowse, Bellingham.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, absolutely. But I mean, I just think, Sam, Natalie, a fit Henderson goes. I think he travels.
All right, Sam, I know it's going to be a busy day because you're going to be back with us throughout the show, which would be great. But that was today's Back Pages with Tesco Mobile for Business. Small businesses can save up to 40% on their phone bills. For applicable terms and verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.